From Cornwall to Birmingham and Johnston and Bexhill, here's Ruben Spire on the radio.
Hello to Natasha Jane Julian. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for letting me chat to you today. So can you tell me, how long have you been a singer-songwriter for?
That's a good question. I think I started about a little bit over a decade ago. I was living in South Florida at the time, and I was in a band. I was in a couple of bands, and we kind of released, I think, an EP like as a band together. It was a very eclectic band. We had like a harp in it and everything. And that I kind of started, I had the urge to break off and do my own thing and start writing my own songs. So I kind of started a little bit. I also at the same time started playing piano, which is kind of very unusual, to start playing piano later in life. But I did, and I fell in love with it, and it really helped me with my songwriting. And that was kind of where everything bloomed. And soon after that, I broke off from the band, and then I released my first single, 2016, which was Gemini Twin, with the help of my friend from the UK, actually, guitarist Phil Baker. He's an amazing guitarist and also singer, but he helped me kind of get my first music pieces off the ground, and started from there.
Can you tell me more about Gemini Twin?
Gemini Twin is a very, I would say is a very eclectic song, actually, because it's kind of got a very different vibe to its melody. It was written when I was going through a really dark time in Florida. And it's not about what you think it is. Like, it's not about me and my different personalities. It was about going through the hardship that I was going through at the time, which kind of led into a bunch of other songs after that as well. But it's got a beautiful guitar piece in there, kind of almost like a kind of Santana style to it. And it's definitely down tempo, kind of in line with my other songs. It's dark. It's really, really, to this day, it still kind of holds a special place because it's my first song that I released, and I just really love it still to this day. There's still some songs I look back on, and some of them I'm like, oh, cringy, not that song. That song I still love. So
Can you tell me more about Happily Ever After?
Happily Ever After. Yeah, Happily Ever After. Speaking of that, this is Happily Ever After. Again, so Happily Ever After, I started collaborating with engineer, producer in New York, Mike Makowski. And he actually worked on one of the Amy Winehouse projects. I think he did the engineering for it. And so we started collaborating, and then his partner, his name was Mitt Music. We kind of came together, and the three of us, I wrote the songs, Mitt produced it, and then I flew to New York, and we recorded all 5 songs in like 2.5 days. And that was really cool too, because that was the first time I like set off by myself. I never met these guys. We had been, collaborating for like the last 6 months. And I showed up. I'm like, okay, like, it doesn't matter if you're comfortable. It doesn't matter if you know these guys. Like, okay, you've got 2.5 days in the studio, like, time to record the song. So we did that. And Happily Ever After is the title song for that EP, Happily Ever After. And it's definitely a piece that I'm really proud of. I also learned a lot through that album. I learned that, to trust my instincts a lot. I had one of the songs, I think it was Empty Spaces. So Empty Spaces is the last song on the EP. It started changing a little bit too much, and I went with the flow, but I still had these feelings like, no, that's kind of going a little bit too far away from my original idea. But I didn't choose to make any changes, so I just let it be. And now I kind of, once after the EP was put out, I looked back and I kind of regretted not saying something and saying, hey guys, no, wait, this is actually too far off from the way I wrote it. And I wish it kind of had more of its originality to it, the way that I first wrote it. So, I mean, it's things like that, that little things I really learned. Oh, hey, next time, don't do that. Just little things that I learned along the way. So, yeah.
So can you tell me more about Mechanical Heart?
Mechanical Heart, yes. Mechanical Heart, I had attended a boot camp in, it was in England, actually. I spent a lot of time in England. And I think it was in Kent. And that's kind of where they had us do these exercises where it was come up with a title first. We'd be looking through magazines or newspapers, and I kind of came up with that title at first. So I had the title before I ever wrote the song. I left the boot camp. I kind of had learned some things from there. And then when I got back home, this is when I was living in France, the south of France, I had wrote Mechanical Heart. And it was really different at the time than anything else I was writing. It was about the world, and it was about the way that, we're losing our feeling, and how we're like kind of like robots just going through the motions. And I had always written about like my feelings and stuff like that. So it was definitely different than anything I'd written. And Mechanical Heart was really cool because I was listening to one of these interviews that we're doing right now with a UK manager, Anna, and she was interviewing Don Morley. So Don Morley, I came to find out, which was also worked with Amy Winehouse. I swear all these people that I've worked with have kind of, been involved in kind of the same projects. But he was very, very heavily involved in her project, and he had won a Grammy from one of the projects as well. So if you look him up, you can see Don Morley. So I really, watching him talk on the interview, I felt like that we would actually get along really well. So after the interview, I contacted him and I said, hey, I've got these songs I'm working on. And I was wondering if you want to, collaborate and produce them. So he had me, first send like, well, how do you want it to sound? Like send some sound samples. Because he said, if it's not in line with, my style, then I usually won't do it. So I had sent him some stuff, like some Portishead stuff. And he's like, jumped on the project right away. He's like, this is totally up my alley. So it was really cool to have him excited about doing those next songs with me. And we started with the tester song, and that was Mechanical Heart. And I flew out to his beautiful studio in London, just outside London, and we recorded Mechanical Heart. And it went so well, and his expertise in the studio, I just loved the way he worked. And so we ended up doing another album together.
So I can talk about the EP called Angel.
Yes. So Mechanical Heart is on the EP called Angel. And I just happen to have these right here. Yes, Angel, I guess, it was my second project. I already had my feet wet with Happily Ever After, and I had learned some things. I've become a little bit better of a songwriter. It was also a dark EP, and I'm super proud of that one. I had a little bit of help from my friend Phil Baker again, who the guitarist from the UK. But it was mostly Dom Morley that ran the project, and Phil flew over to do some like guitar work on it. And so, yeah, Angel, I shot the photo shoot for it from an old friend that we've known in Los Angeles for a very long time. And he did the photos. We came up with the idea. I had this vision of like blood dripping down my face. So I was trying to get the makeup artist to, see my vision. So we got this blood, and we had like put it like here. So it was almost burning in the eye. And then we had to like take the pictures really fast because after that it was gone. So it came out really, really cool. You can kind of see on the back, like the blood dripping down like that, and then the front. So it's a very, very, I would say, pristine sound to it. And Dom just really, he created all the harmonies perfect. I mean, telling me, of course, what to do, but his knowledge is really pretty impressive. So
can you tell me more about My Wicked Game?
Yeah, my Wicked Game is kind of a little offbeat from what I usually do, actually. But I wrote it. I remember playing around with it in my house in France. And I had done like a couple like Instagram videos of just like me playing on piano. And but it's a twisted song because it's about revenge. And I'm not a revengeful person. I'm the opposite of that. But it was pretty much being in character. So I was like, okay, this is fun. Just because you're a certain type of artist doesn't mean that, you can't write songs that where it's not completely who you are, So I felt like I was playing a character, and it was definitely fun to delve into that. And it was released right around Halloween. So it was really playful in a wicked way.
So can you tell me more about I Love You, Paris?
I Love You, Paris. Yeah. So I was just saying that I had lived in France for a few years. And I wrote I Love You, Paris. I had just gotten back. Within the few months, I just got back from France, and I had just written West Coast Girl right before that. And then I Love You, Paris at the same time. And I was just really bloomed out of my missing France. I love Paris, actually. I really do. I didn't live in Paris. I lived in the south of France, but I kind of always wanted to live in Paris. And I used to take the train to Paris, and it just felt really magical when you land there, especially coming from the States, because it's so different. But even coming, from the south of France, you feel like you're going somewhere different. It has its own culture. It's very, very unique. That city is very, very special. So, wrote a song about Paris because I love Paris.
You can talk about I'll Be Your Goddess.
I'll Be Your Goddess. Yeah, so I'll Be Your Goddess, I wrote a long time ago. And I kind of just shelved it for a long time. I liked something about it. I liked the chorus. I liked the vibe of it. I knew it wasn't ready yet, though, so I just kind of put it away. And then years later, when I was living in Los Angeles, I had this great guitarist. His name was Corey Clark, and he had performed with me in Los Angeles, and he was part of the band. And he was also a really good songwriter as well. So we had always talked about maybe doing a song together. And I threw him some songs one day. We're like, oh, you want to do a song together now? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And I threw him some songs one day, and he came back and he's like, let's work on I'll Be Your Goddess. I was like, okay. So he actually ended up producing the whole thing for me. And I recorded it here in Los Angeles with my husband's So his sister's husband, so his half sister's husband, he's also a musician. And Corey came to the studio and vocal produced me as well. But he came up with a really badass bridge on that song. So I pretty much had the choruses and the verses almost set in stone. We just kind of changed some of the lyrics slightly. But he really came up with that bridge. And the bridge is actually one of my favorite parts. It's really cool. It's not your standard pop structure. So even when we play it live, like my studio musicians, they're like, wait, how does this bridge go? What are the chords? And they're like, this is funky, but it's really cool. It's really cool to play. It's fun.
So can you tell me more about the first single that released this year called Pink Roses?
Yeah. Pink Roses. So it's so funny. Now that you're asking me about these songs, I can kind of see the way my brain works a little bit. Pink Rose, I don't usually do this first, like have something like a title or something I love and then be like, okay, I'm going to write a song about that. But a few times I have. Usually it's just comes, much more organically. But Pink Roses, I have an obsession with pink roses. And I was taking like pictures and videos and just completely obsessed. And then I was like, yeah, I really want to write a song about pink roses. But then I thought, like, what am I going to say? Like, how much can you say about pink roses that you love them? So instead, I decided that, it doesn't have to be about the pink roses. Pink roses are like the topic, because you keep talking about that's what brings you guys together, but it's really a love story, and the love story is organic. It is true. It was about my current and longtime husband, partner. So that's really what it was about, but I kind of intertwined it into my love for pink roses. And I really like that song too, because the intro, it's different, has a different melody, has a different vibe than my other songs. And so, yeah, it overall has a different feel. And to this day, for some reason, when I get in my car, that's the first song that plays, because that's like saved on Spotify. I have no idea, but I get in my car and it like plays every time. I'm like, oh, God, this song again. And I'm like, I love this song. Like, I haven't got sick of it yet.
So can you tell me more about your latest single called Singing in the Rain?
Singing in the Rain. Yeah. Singing in the Rain is just a really fun, I'm a very positive person. That's who I am at my core. So it's about, looking on the positive side, looking on the bright side, finding that sunshine, even when, things are dark. And that's really the true essence, really. There's no fancy way to put that one, or, that one is just a little piece of who I am and who I am at my core. I think I probably got that from my mom. We had a pretty crazy, chaotic childhood, and I was in the middle of 5 children, and my mom was raising us by herself. And my mom and dad had a really crazy relationship. And my mom always looked like she always had some positive way to put it for the kids. And I think that's really what kept her going and what kept us going as well. And I think that's probably who I get that from, looking on the bright side of things. So, and I love that the producer of Singing in the Rain actually is a guy named Dibs. And Dibs came on board with my album when I found out that my first producer was actually going through some post-COVID health conditions. And we decided that we were going to stop halfway through. He was going to finish up those songs, and I was going to find another producer to finish the rest of the album. So Dibs came on board, and he was, amazing. And I really think these things happen for a reason. So he put a little bit of a reggae twist on it. And he's like, do you like this? And I was like, yeah, I love it. So.
So, what are your plans for the future for next year?
Yeah, I have an album. I have a whole album coming out that I have been dying to get out for a few years. But timing is everything. So I guess it was just not the right timing. And now it's going to be the right timing. So, yep, I've got a whole album. I've got a couple more singles coming out early 2024 that I've been prepping for now. I have an announcement soon. And so, yeah, we will listen to those next time we talk.
So, have you got any plans to promote your album in the future?
Sorry, say that again.
Have you got any plans to do an album release in shows, gigs?
And shows and gigs, yes. I would love to. Yeah, I've been getting the band prepared. We had our first couple of rehearsals a few weeks ago, and we went through the songs. It was our first time going through the new material, and you're always like a bit nervous because they're playing your songs, and you're like, are these going to sound good live? Because I've only heard the studio version, and I came back beaming. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be so cool. So I'm really excited. My band is really talented, and yeah, that's the plan. The plan is to tour with my new album, to play some festivals. I would love to go abroad. I'd love to come to England. I'd love to come to Europe in general. Go up to Canada, Mexico. So yeah.
So, can you tell me how's being an independent artist for you?
Independent artist has its pros and cons. The pros being you really have creative control over everything, and you can decide when and what you want to do. And at the same time, it's very, very hard because, even though you do have some team with you, sometimes you get overwhelmed and you're like, even though you love it and you're so passionate about it, it gets overwhelming. And so, yeah, those are the pros and cons. I tend to sometimes, overwhelm myself, and then sometimes I don't find out until it's too late. And I did that, a few years ago when I was going. I wanted to do so much in a short amount of time. And sometimes I'm a little bit impatient. And, I always learn, okay, like you have to pull back. It's okay. Like life is long. Let's do things. Sometimes if you just need to let go for a little bit and realize that things will come at the right time. So hold your horses.
And finally, can you tell me, listeners, where can I find you on social media?
Yeah. So you can find me on Facebook at Natasha Jane Julian. You can find me also on YouTube, Natasha Jane Julian. Please subscribe to me. I would love it. And you can find me on Instagram at Natasha Jane J, and also Twitter, or X now. I'm not huge. I'm not very active on Twitter. Maybe that'll change, but that's for now. And you can find me on Spotify. Please follow me. It's Natasha Jane Julian as well. So,
thank you for letting me chat to you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you for supporting me as well.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.